Hey everybody, Black Ninja 797 here, and welcome back to another video. And today's video, I'm going to be reviewing the second DLC of Back 4 Blood. As of the publishing of this video, this DLC is now officially 2 weeks old, and now that I've had some time to play the game and experience it myself, I want to end up giving a full review of everything within this new DLC for you guys, so that way, just like in the last video where I reviewed DLC 1, you guys can come to the conclusion of whether or not that you want to buy this DLC, or in other words, if it is worth your money. Now throughout this video, I'm going to be taking a look at the good things of note and the bad things of note, because I'm not going to go over absolutely everything, because even though this DLC has been out for a while, I have not experienced absolutely everything, and I feel like that's only fair to end up reviewing not only the core essential things, but also the things that I myself have only experienced. So with that being said, sit back, grab a snack, relax, and enjoy the review of Back 4 Blood DLC 2. Okay, so to start the review, we're going to be going over all the positive stuff that is within this DLC, because I want to start off the video on a positive note. So the very first thing that I would like to note is going to end up being characters. Now, unlike DLC 1, where we got 2 DLC characters, this time we only got 1, but that is okay, because this character is extremely fun, and this character is going to end up being the Prophet Dan. In terms of his story and his dialogue, Dan is an extremely fun character to play as. I like his accent, I like his dialogue, I like his personality. Everything about Dan's character arc is also really intriguing, despite although being a little weird. Now in terms of Dan's gameplay mechanics and also what traits that he has as a character, this is where it's interesting. So Dan's character traits are not actually the original ones that were advertised for the second DLC. Now I know this sounds a little bit strange, but let me explain. Essentially what would happen is that Dan is supposed to end up having it where if anybody on the team goes down, that he has his own personal random generated abilities that would be a benefit to the team. The problem is with these abilities is that they were extremely overpowered, and to my knowledge I also do believe that they stacked, so it basically made Dan completely and utterly broken and they had to change him. Now he does still have the main idea of his ability, which is that he does allow himself to be able to get these cool power-ups, but they're not nearly as broken as they used to be, so now when somebody downs on your team, it just makes it so that way Dan temporarily gets a little pick-me-up or a power boost, and that's basically it. Overall, even though Dan is not necessarily as overpowered as he could be, and therefore might sound like he's not as fun, I promise you he is still a very justifiable pick, and he is a very fun character to listen to storyline-wise. So in terms of character development and also functionality to the meta of Back 4 Blood, he's a very welcomed addition, and he's still a very enjoyable character to play. Next we move on to the brand new map. I would say that the brand new map is my favorite part of this DLC because this has the most substance, and in addition to that, it's also really cool because it expands the story of the game because we end up getting a brand new act with Act 5. And this allows you to be able to not only play a brand new map with a really interesting story that also themes around the brand new DLC character, which we'll get into here in just a second, but the map also is 6 chapters long, which means that this is not only the longest map we have had in all of Back 4 Blood, but it's the first time in a long time that we've had a map be this attention to detail oriented. And I'm very glad that it was 6 and not like 2 chapters. Now to elaborate a little bit further on the map and also transition to our next topic here, let's move on to story. So, this is going to end up being a spoiler warning now for the second DLC, so if you guys do not want to end up seeing spoilers, I do advise that you skip this part and then end up watching the rest of the video, but here we go. So upon watching the very first cutscene of the brand new story, we will see that Dan, the brand new playable character, is interrogated by the General. During this cutscene, the General is interrogating Dan to figure out who he is and what his backstory is, and upon this backstory taking place, you will see some animated cutscenes that will be happening that will be showing from Dan's point of view what happened and why he ended up getting here. Essentially, long story short, Dan is this prophet guy that believes that he is leading his flock or his followers to safety by trying to guide them in a way that will keep them alive during the zombie apocalypse with his magical powers and his mind. But unfortunately, Dan's people end up getting abducted by a zombie cult group, and yes, I am 100% serious when I say that. I know that sounds weird, but we'll explain upon that later. But we basically find out that Dan is a good guy, only just trying to end up helping his people, so he ends up working with us to try to rescue them and get people back to Fort Hope. I really like how in this cutscene they not only end up explaining where we're going, but they also end up elaborating specifically on Dan. And I like how that they don't make you have to dig through the voice lines and the in-game Easter eggs to figure out who Dan actually is. They make it loud and clear that he is this magical prophet dude that's trying to rescue his people, although be it that he is a little bit crazy. Eventually, to find Dan's people, you have to make your way to a prison where there's going to end up being these zombie cult people. The zombie cult people have essentially taken over the prison, and they are trying to abduct people to try to mutate them into this half-zombie, half-human type of thing that they are. As the map proceeds, Dan and the other survivors finally end up running into some other humans. They are people that have not been turned by these zombie cult people yet. It is at this point in the story that you now believe that you have reunited Dan with his people. However, though, there is a big catch. The catch is, and you will notice this when you are playing as Dan specifically, you will notice that when Dan is enthusiastic and happy to see his supposed friends, that all the people that you freed do not know who the heck that Dan is. This dialogue is supposed to allow the player to now think to themselves that there is the very real possibility that Dan is just insane and that this mission very well might be for nothing. As the map progresses, you're eventually locked into this one area with the zombie cult people and essentially trapped in this little cube battle arena. But despite your demise looking imminent, eventually there is a beacon of hope when there is this zombie child that will end up removing this wooden plank from the floor, and you will be allowed to sneak in to the prison and end up being safe once more. Upon loading into the next safe room, you will find out via the dialogue from this zombified child that he is actually completely normal in terms of his mind, because even though he is zombified, he is willing to end up helping you escape from the map. The way that you are intending to escape from the map is that you will end up trying to take this one truck that is located on the other side of the prison, so in order to do that you have to sneak from the underground mineshaft area. But before the survivors go to get the rescue vehicle, the zombie child only just has one request, which is going to end up being that the survivors take him and his sister with them. But unfortunately, the zombie child ends up having a off-camera death, supposedly via radio dialogue, so the survivors just decide to leave on their own. Eventually, with all the TNT that's lying around in this prison, the survivors end up blowing up the prison and escaping with the one vehicle that was located in the basement, and they end up leaving the island. Overall, the story is pretty solid. It's not my favorite. I do enjoy the original story more personally. However, though, it's still enjoyable. It still suffices as a very worthwhile DLC in terms of storyline and gameplay. I do have a little bit of gripes with it, but that'll be later on in the negative section of the video, though. And then finally, for the last section within the good category, this is going to end up being the brand new enemies. Now, I know it sounds silly saying zombie cult members as a enemy type is cool or good, but I promise you they are really solid enemies and they're really enjoyable to play against within the game. So here are some of the different zombie cult members that you can run into in a potential game. There's going to end up being the archer character, the melee character, the bile bomb or bile jar character, and then finally the sniper character. All of these zombie cult members not only serve a purpose, but they are also balanced, which is a big deal to me because they are only available on 5 of the 6 chapters within this map. They are only available on this map, and even though there's a ridiculous amount of them, there's never a time that I feel overwhelmed by these guys, even though they're everywhere. Whereas in comparison's sake, with all the different special infected that have been found throughout Back 4 Blood, I could say that those guys are a lot more annoying because the numbers that they spawn in and the frequency that they spawn in is a lot more overwhelming and irritating. But I don't feel that with the cult members. I think that the cult members are balanced, and I think that they're fun to go up against, and they do serve a purpose in terms of the actual game, and they are worth playing against. Okay everyone, so now that I've said everything that I like about this DLC, let's talk about everything I don't like about the DLC. The first thing is going to end up being the brand new equipment. The equipment that was introduced in the second DLC is extremely disappointing. There's going to end up being 3 brand new total equipment. Well, technically it's actually 2 because one of them is just a remake of the bile bomb from Left 4 Dead 2. But other than that, there's also going to end up being a smoke bomb and then a bear trap. The bear trap is completely and utterly useless, and same thing with the smoke grenade. Both of these pieces of equipment are completely and utterly of no use to you as a player. The bear trap will only end up being useful if you're playing on the camping maps, so if you want to end up using this on the old maps, you are more than welcome to, although if you were going to end up using it for camping purposes, you are much better off just purchasing razor wire at that point instead. The smoke grenade is basically and utterly useless because the smoke grenade only conceals you from the common infected, so you cannot use this on any of the specials in the game, which is the main reason why I would think anybody would ever use this thing. And then finally, we've got the OG Bile Bomb. The Bile Bomb is now back within Back 4 Blood. The problem is, though, is that I don't like it. And the main reason why I don't like it is because they don't end up having it function like the original Bile Bomb. Now, sure, yes, it does end up making so that way the zombies do run to whatever, like, fart cloud that you end up producing, but it's not really that long, and it ends up just going away, like, instantaneously. I understand you can also upgrade your grenades, end up having more of them and making them more powerful, but even then when I upgrade them or get more of them, it still feels like it's never enough. I would much rather end up picking up a frag grenade or basically literally anything else. Regarding all the equipment that was introduced in the second DLC, saying that it was a massive letdown was kind of an understatement. I cannot imagine any of these being useful in the game at all. They are all just subpar, piss-poor versions of stuff that already exists within the game. If you want to end up being able to defend yourself, why would you get a bear trap when you can end up getting razor wire, which is much better? Why get a smoke grenade when you just get a flashbang? And why end up buying the Bile Bomb when you can just buying a pipe bomb or firecrackers? The new equipment doesn't have to be meta changing, but I cannot end up justifying picking this over literally anything else in the entire game because they're just not worth your time to pick them up. I will say this, that I do enjoy the brand new melee weapon, and I also end up enjoying the bow and arrow that was introduced into the game, but I would classify those under different things, and I'm just not going to address that here today. Now we move on to the cosmetics. The cosmetics within DLC 2 are going to end up being under the bad part of the list because I end up thinking that they're a disappointment in comparison to last time. In DLC 1, the cosmetics not only looked better, but you ended up earning them in a really fun way. Now, although be it they were a difficult way, they were still enjoyable nonetheless. What you would have to do is you would have to go into the Ridden Hives, and you would end up picking up the Skull Totems, which were a melee weapon that you could use, and you could upgrade over time, and you would take the melee weapon with you and redeem them in the supply lines. Now this time with DLC 2, the cosmetics don't look nearly as enjoyable, and plus also, there is not as many of them. If you take a look at the guns, for example, the guns end up having the same issue that DLC 1 had, where a lot of the camos will just repeat, but not only will they repeat, but we don't even have it where every single camo is available on all the weapons like last time. Sometimes some guns get one camo or none, and it's really frustrating. But there is some that are good, such as a couple of character skins, so if you do want to end up earning them, how would you go about earning them? Now here's the thing, I'm starting to notice a pattern here with Turtle Rock, where they like to end up making it so that way each DLC you end up earning all the loot in new ways, and not end up using the supply lines every single time. So within DLC 1, we ended up having the Skull Totems and the Ridden Hives, so now with DLC 2, they like to end up using this thing called the Duffel Bag system. So what exactly is the duffel bag system? The duffel bag system is a system where you end up picking up a duffel bag and end up occupying the same spot that would end up being the specimen container. You end up picking this up randomly once throughout the map, and you end up bringing it to the safe room to end up counting it towards your supply line. The problem is that this process is extremely and painfully slow. Like, slower than two turtles having sex type of slow. And it's annoying because you can't end up grinding the game at the speed you want to, you have to solely rely on the RNG. Now I understand that this is a way for Turtle Rock to drip feed the content so that way you don't complete it in one day and then wonder where the heck the next DLC is. I understand that. The problem is with that though is that you're completely and utterly relying on the player's determination to complete the supply lines and hope that they are intriguing enough for the person to want to complete them within the first place. Now see, if the original DLC, DLC 1, if their cosmetics were in the duffel bag system, I could see a player being incentivized. But the problem was, though, is that it was the luck on Turtle Rock's end, where the cosmetics that they have that people would like to go for are not as interesting this time, and they also have a crappier system in comparison to the badass Ridden Hives. So basically, the player is left feeling like they are doing more work, and work that's out of their control for an unknown period of time, just end up getting a lackluster reward, which is not how you have good game design. As much as I am a completionist, I don't have any desire to try to grind the current supply lines right now. I would much rather grind the Ridden Hives because those are more fun and the rewards are much better. And I understand that Turtle Rock is tweaking this currently as of right now, because if you keep up with the patch notes, this system used to be a lot worse, because originally the system had it so that way you could only find a single duffel bag per game because they were only available on the finales of maps. But now they spawn periodically throughout the entire game, so it's a lot more easier than it was before, although be it still frustrating. I think what Turtle Rock should do to adjust the duffel bag system going forward is make it so that way you can get multiple duffel bags throughout the entire game, and make it where you don't necessarily have to carry it to the safe room like a specimen container. Make it much more rather like you end up picking up a collectible and it just is superfluous to your inventory, and you just get them sure to be RNG throughout the entire game, but there should be no cap necessarily on how many you can find per game, and rather have it be where you end up just getting lucky or you don't. Because it is very frustrating that the cosmetics are already kind of a letdown, but the idea of being able to only have like one or possibly no duffel bags throughout your entire play session just for a lackluster reward is frustrating. So make it so that way you can get more in a game and have the odds be more favorable, so that way it makes up for the lack of interesting cosmetics this time around. Now we move on to plot holes within the story. Okay, so as much as I love this DLC story and think that it's very fun, I have to admit that there is some very bad plot holes within the story. Number one is that why is it that all of a sudden that you end up dropping a bombshell throughout the story where via the dialogue that when we go to free Dan's supposed followers that we realize that these people don't know who the heck that Dan is? Why is this just something that is completely ignored? Why do we not address this any further throughout the game? Because the whole entire objective of this game was to end up rescuing people. The entire idea was to rescue people and bring them back to Fort Hope. So even though we don't know Dan, and we know to a certain degree that he's nuts, why isn't that they don't call him out? Why is that nobody will call out Dan and be like, hey, you know what? I think that you've kind of lost your marbles, we need to end up discussing. And I understand that this is a character within the game, and that this isn't some random AI or NPC, so it probably will amount to nothing because it doesn't end up having like that deep of a story, I get that. But it's just kind of frustrating that certain things like this get looked over when they kind of seem like a big deal. Speaking of big deals, what happened to the zombie kid and his supposed sister when we end up getting rescued by him during like halfway through the game? Why is it that this kid, we never see him again? Because after this chapter where he rescues us, and we go to end up going down to the mine shaft to eventually end up seeking our own form of rescue, we only ever at the best end up getting a off-camera supposed death from this kid. And not only that, but where the heck was his supposed sister in all this? Because they do end up stressing the entire time when you meet this kid, oh, please rescue me and my sister, please rescue me and my sister, please rescue me and my sister, and we never see the sister once. It's like, was she real? Did she end up getting turned? I would just like to know these things, because all the characters really do in this game is just being like, yeah, we need to get from point A to point B, and as soon as we're done talking to you, I'm gonna completely forget that you exist. Because that's what that feels like. And I understand that this is like some sort of zombified, mutated kid, but he ended up saving us, so at the very least we could do more than just say like, okay, good riddance, good luck. Like, we never end up seeing this kid again. We never saw his sister in the first place. The best we get is off-camera stuff. It's like, are we not gonna bring this up again? And finally, what the hell is with the last cutscene that's on this map? There's supposed to be this epic like getaway scene where we blow up the island and we blow up the prison with all the TNT that's lying around, and we end up taking this car to try to escape. And I understand that we would still have to walk over to the boat eventually, but why is this cutscene like so dull in comparison to what it could be? Because what happens is that we have epic explosion, the truck ends up getting out of the prison, but then nobody gets out of the truck, and all there is just some cheesy dialogue about how this isn't the end, this is only the beginning. Like, I would figure that that would be the case, but we never even leave the island, so it supposedly could be a to-be-continued thing, but if that was the case, why not address it? There's a lot of stuff that seemed forgotten about or looked over, such as character dialogue, or storyline, or even something as simple as the cutscenes. The map almost feels like this time around their story is supposed to represent like a cheesy horror movie. Now, it does work out in its favor, But to a certain degree, I would like to have at least a little bit more clarification on the story, because just because it's cheesy doesn't mean I don't want to know more about it. I just don't like the idea of a character being a one-off and just being there for transitional sake and just being forgettable. Or at the very, very least, like, give us something about what the hell happened with these zombie cult people. Did they all die? Did we ever figure out what happened to them? That's the biggest thing. We never even found out what the heck even happened to them. What made them turn into these zombie cult people? Because we never find out throughout the entire game. I haven't even seen a single thing on Turtle Rock's Twitter about it, about, like, lore, about how that these people ended up becoming half zombie, half human. It never is elaborated upon. Why is nobody bringing it up? The characters don't even bring it up the entire time. They only just acknowledge that they exist, but they don't even hypothesize for the player to end up thinking to themselves about what it possibly could be. It's just like, why are these people normal-ish in comparison to the other special infected? Why do they maintain control whereas others do not? But now that I've finished my thoughts on the story, let me talk about one more thing, and I'm going to try to make this not necessarily like complainy or ranty, but I will express my frustrations because this does kind of bug me. No new game modes. Now, Turtle Rock, I understand that game development is not easy. I completely get that. But you have to understand, my friend, is that it has been almost exactly an entire year since your game has come out, and there's still yet to be any new game mode at all. Right now in the game, there is the single player and the multiplayer campaign and versus mode, and that's it. And the thing is that Versus is extremely unfun to play in Back 4 Blood with the way it's designed, and it hasn't changed since the initial launch basically at all. So basically all there is just the normal campaign. And that can only be fun for so long. And so it would be nice to get any new game mode, because regardless of whether or not it's a remake of a Left 4 Dead mode, or if it's a new mode upon itself, a new game mode in any capacity would still be much more enjoyable than no game mode. It would be cool to see a traditional versus, survival, scavenge mode, mutations mode, or even just a brand new Back 4 Blood game mode that would just be exclusive to itself. I've made a video before talking about game modes that Turtle Rock could easily add into the game, and they've added nothing. I don't know necessarily if Turtle Rock you're trying not to take away from the base game. You might not even feel like you need necessarily an alternative game mode. You might think that your base game is good enough. And if that's the case, kudos to you. I am not trying to make this a bashing session, nor am I trying to make this a hate video. I'm just trying to give fun and teasing and playful constructive criticism while trying to generally give you my best and honest opinions, because I think that a game mode, like I said, regardless of what it is at this point, would just be great for Back 4 Blood. It would be a nice added addition, because when the single player gets stale, and since Versus is not going to be changed, it looks like anytime soon, it would just be nice to give players variety. So at the end of the day, Turtle Rock, I hope you end up hearing this video and taking all my feedback to heart, and I hope that you take other people's feedback to heart and end up trying to implement that into the game, so that way Back 4 Blood can still continue to end up being fun and being the best possible game you can end up imagining for. But yeah, everybody, that is going to be here for today's video, and I do truly hope you guys ended up enjoying my review of Children of the Worm, the second DLC for Back 4 Blood. If you guys end up enjoying today's video, please drop a like, comment, and subscribe, and all that beautiful stuff. If you guys would like to financially support the channel, I would tremendously appreciate if you guys could go check out my Patreon. It is always linked down below in all my YouTube video descriptions, or you guys could use supporter creator code BlackNinja797 in all caps in the Fortnite Epic Games item shops, because Epic is my very first sponsor, and they are sponsoring today's video, so shout out to Epic Games. But yeah, guys, I hope you end up enjoying seeing another YouTube video from the most unique YouTubers I'm ever going to see. Thanks for watching, guys. I love all of you, and peace out.
Hey, meme lords, Jesus here, and you better have enjoyed that video there by the eternal god Daddy Ninja. You should probably subscribe too, or the mighty Moab will come for your balls. If you enjoyed the video, you might like it too, and give me the memes. Flash, bang, boom!